Here's everything you might have missed in Secret Invasion Episode 1. Welcome back to Nerdist News. I'm Dan Casey, and today we're diving into the sick, sad, shape-shifting world of Secret Invasion. We're going to break it all down for you in just a moment, including the implications of that shocking ending. However, to talk about this episode in detail, we have to spoil what happens. So if you haven't seen it yet and you're worried about that sort of thing, get out of your seat and take a hike.
Going for a walk.
Okay, let's get into it, shall we? Secret Invasion is a show that I really want to love because it's clear the MCU has aspirations of making a paranoid spy thriller. And while many have been calling Secret Invasion Marvel's Andor in the lead up to the show, it doesn't quite reach the heights of that particular series just yet. So far, it feels like they're splitting the difference between Captain America the Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, and a dash of Captain Marvel for good measure. The series finds Nick Fury returning to Earth for the first time since Avengers Endgame to face his greatest enemy yet, the consequences of his own actions. Or rather, his own inactions. This version of the Secret Invasion story finds pockets of shape-shifting Skrulls. Who are fomenting violence because they're tired of being lied to. 30 years have gone by since the events of Captain Marvel, when Nick Fury and Carol Danvers promised to help the Skrull people find a new planet after their homeworld of Skrullos was destroyed in the Kree-Skrull War. In the comics, Secret Invasion was a massive 2008 crossover event from Brian Michael Bendis, Lionel Francis Yu, Mark Morales, and Laura Martin. Led by religious zealots, Skrulls initiated a stealth invasion of Earth. They replaced everyone from superheroes to high-ranking government officials. It also set the stage for the public to lose faith in the superheroes sworn to protect them, and for people like Norman Osborn to seize power and create groups like the Dark Avengers. And that's the direction the MCU seems to be going in, with General Thunderbolt Ross likely coming to power as a result of what will unfold over the course of this show. One of the Multiverse Saga's ongoing storylines charts how groups like Damage Control are increasingly militarizing and policing superhuman communities. The end result of that is going to be something like the Thunderbolts. Now, Secret Invasion will probably be the straw that breaks the camel's back, especially because the Avengers are nowhere to be found. And the lack of iconic Marvel heroes in this story is one of the starkest differences from the comics. By centering Nick Fury in this story, we're getting a human perspective. We're getting to hear from someone who doesn't have godlike powers, but repeatedly tries to stand up against impossible odds. But this may not be the Nick Fury we remember. The show frequently repeats how Thanos' snap has changed him.
Well done.
Instead of rebuilding the Earth after Endgame, he's been hiding out on Saber, the space station modeled after the Peak in the comics, which we glimpsed in Spider-Man Far From Home and in the Marvels trailer. It also kind of feels like a metatextual response to the criticisms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe losing its luster and stumbling in the wake of Endgame. While there have been undeniably high points like WandaVision, Loki, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Marvel's multiverse saga thus far has felt extremely uneven compared to the Infinity Saga. Now, Nick Fury has been there since the very beginning. He first appeared in 2008's Iron Man. He's the one who first assembled the Avengers. So it feels appropriate that he's trying to single-handedly save the MCU in its darkest hour. But that mentality may prove to be Fury's undoing. His friends are already dropping like flies. As for Fury's remaining allies, well, Talos is a broken man. He's reeling from the death of his wife Sorin and the radicalization of his daughter Gaia. Sonya Falsworth, the head of MI6, is still pretty miffed at Fury for the destruction of London in Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, it's not confirmed, but Sonya may also have a connection to another Marvel character, James Montgomery Falsworth. He fought with Captain America and the Howling Commandos back in the first Avenger. In the comics, he also went on to be the superhero Union Jack, and his daughter, Jacqueline Falsworth, went on to become the superhero/vampire known as Spitfire. Sure. As for Sonya, well, her superpower is being able to straight up kidnap Nick Fury, but not being able to detect the tracer he left in her office. I will be seeing you later, Sonya. I said. Now, the biggest question of this entire show is which beloved characters have been secret Skrulls the whole time. And that brings us to our ongoing Skrull Watch. The show wastes absolutely zero time in revealing its very first green-skinned imposter. Looks like Agent Prescott wasn't crazy. He could smell a Skrull from a mile away.
Skrulls.
As it turns out, Everett Ross has been captured and replaced by the Skrulls for God only knows how long. When we last saw him in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, his ex-wife, CIA Director Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, had him arrested for treason. But Okoye busted Ross out of CIA custody, presumably letting him either return to his Skrull masters or in turn get captured by the Skrulls. It's kind of ironic considering in the comics, Wakanda was basically the only place on Earth these Skrulls couldn't infiltrate. The highly advanced nation mounted their heads on pikes as a means of discouraging other would-be doppelgangers. As for other potential secret Skrulls, I still think that Rhodey and President Ritson, or both, could be Skrulls in disguise, but for our full list of predictions, check out our recent video. Otherwise, stay tuned for even more Skrull Watch as the series unfolds.
Look, it's me. I'm here. Deal with it. Let's move on.
Now, the bigger question that the show actually answers is how and why these Skrull invaders are snatching bodies. The Skrulls have established a colony of sorts in the shadow of an abandoned nuclear facility because they're evidently immune to radiation. Dubbed New Skrullos in honor of their destroyed homeworld, it's a place where Skrulls can be at home in their own skin.
Home in my own skin.
Except not everyone's in their own skin. In this colony of over 500 people, the warriors fighting in the resistance led by the mysterious Gravik remain in human form to avoid detection by both humans and Skrulls alike. Also to save money on makeup.
Yeah, makeup and VFX.
One of these warriors is Gaia, the daughter of Talos and Soren that we first met as a child in Captain Marvel. In the comics, she first appeared in 2019's Meet the Skrulls #1. She was a Skrull agent sent to Earth to generally reenact the events of the Americans. Here, though, she's someone who's been radicalized by decades of inaction, broken promises, and a feeling of shame about her own father's ouster from the Skrull Council that governs their people. As for why Talos was kicked off the council, maybe he took issue with Gravik and Company's practice of kidnapping people and placing them in fracking pods. Now, these pods utilize the same device the Skrulls used on Carol Danvers in Captain Marvel. They're capable of scraping and extracting one's memories, which can then be imprinted into Skrulls. And it's how these Skrull warriors have such intimate knowledge of the people they're replacing. It also gives a sinister undertone to Gaia's choice of reading material, Jason Brown's Understanding the Human Mind. And this may also be a clue as to why the Avengers are missing in action. Some might already be in Skrull custody and their DNA is being harvested to make super Skrulls with superhuman abilities. In the trailers, Gravik seems to have a Groot-like ability to extend his arm, and having powers would let these sleeper agents cause the biggest impact in a world where people with godlike powers just walk among us.
Hi, would you mind taking a picture with us?
Oh, sure.
Now, regardless of that theory, the episode does a great job of rewarding eagle-eyed viewers. If you're paying close attention during this first reveal, you can spot the art dealer and dirty bomb salesman Paprician in one of the pods. And keep an eye on the other visible faces in this scene because chances are we'll be Skrull watching them later in the season. As for the other named Skrulls in this show, several are also plucked from the comics. Pagan, Gravik's second-in-command, played a crucial role in kicking off Secret Invasion. In New Avengers #31, Echo wound up killing the assassin Elektra during a battle between the New Avengers and the Hand. But it wasn't Elektra, rather it was Pagan impersonating her. The driver Xerxu, who takes Gaia to meet with Paprician, first appeared in 1977's Marvel premiere #35 as a spy who went undercover as Richard Nixon and battled the hero 3D Man. You know 3D Man? Yeah, me neither. Now, during the fracking pod scene, the woman on the far right is named Kriega. She is a deep-cut Super Skrull warrior that first appeared in 2002's Marvel Mangaverse #2. As for characters like Beto and Brogan, I couldn't find a one-to-one for them in the comics, but I'm sure we'll meet other comic oddities as the season unfolds. And speaking of oddities, you may have noticed that intro sequence looks like some real Mid-Journey-ass shit. And that's because it actually is. It's AI generated. And while I understand the creative intention behind this intro, the decision to use AI instead of talented artists and animators to make this frankly sucks. I expect more of Marvel, and I'm disappointed to say the least. We'll delve more into this in a future video, but for right now, it's just a big old bummer. Now, moving on, let's talk about the most shocking reveal of all, the death of Maria Hill. It's a brutal way to end this episode, not only because it cements Nick Fury's failure and just how unprepared he is to tackle Gravik, but because the last thing Maria Hill saw was her friend shooting her at point-blank range. Gravik has zero qualms about murdering hundreds of civilians in the middle of a crowded square. He also put salt in the wound by stealing Nick Fury's identity to kill one of his closest friends. Now, of course, as with everything related to Nick Fury and death, there might be more to this scene than meets the eye. Is he really 3 steps behind, or unlike his game with Maria, is he actually playing 4D chess? Only time will tell, but Based on the great pains the show's taken to establish just how long Fury's been out of the game, I think Maria Hill might have actually shuffled off this mortal coil. It also adds a sense of stakes to everything that will follow. It establishes just how ruthless Gravik is compared to the Skrulls we met previously. Gravik is much more in line with the comics depiction of Skrulls being these violent, warlike beings who want to conquer the Earth no matter the cost. But I think as the season unfolds, we could see how Gravik's tactics have a chilling effect on even his most ardent supporters. Case in point, Gaia, who I think will probably have a change of heart as the season unfolds. Anyway, folks, there you have it. That's everything you need to know about Secret Invasion Episode 1. We'll have plenty of other deep dives for you on Nerdist in the days ahead, but for now, tell us, what did you think of this episode? Did you spot anything that we missed?
Oh, you got any more of these comfortable ass Louis XIV chairs in there?
Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, make sure you stay tuned to Nerdist.com.